Did you? Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. So thanks for holding on and being patient with us. We're having some camera issues here tonight, but it's been like a long weekend, guys. A long weekend. Um, so, of those of you who tuned in on the weekend, you know that we had our first investigation this year. We already have some lined up. So, like Linda said 100 times or more, it's going to be a good year. I mean, so far it's starting off good. Tonight's show is going to be interesting, and it is dedicated to Linda. So, Linda, this is all for you because it's all about New Zealand tonight. So, but as we normally start, our weather. What can I say about our weather? Mother Nature, she hasn't been taking her medication and she doesn't know if she wants spring, if she wants fall, if she wants winter, if she wants summer. She just doesn't know because in this past week we had them all. So today, well, last night it started and it's snowing. We had a high temperature today of 32, I think. Um, let me check here. I want to get on. Yeah, we had a high today of 32. They said it's currently 21, but it feels like 10. And it's not going to get much better. It's supposed to snow off and on through the night. Tomorrow, we're only supposed to have 39 degrees and snow again tomorrow evening with a low temperature of 32. Thursday, in the morning, it's going to start off good, but in the evening, we're supposed to have rain showers. It is supposed to hit a high in the 50s on Thursday, and we're supposed to go down to 37 at night. Friday's the total washout all day. We're supposed to have rain all day with the temperatures 59 and a low of 45. And then Saturday, 66, Sunday, 63 with rain again, and then back down into the 40s on Monday. So Mother Nature really, she doesn't know what she wants. She, like I said, she hasn't been taking her medication. So, Linda, since you are from New Zealand and these are all New Zealand based, please excuse me, pardon me, whatever, if I pronounce these words wrong, because when you, as a citizen of the United States, look at a word and it's spelled one way, but you're getting something like from another country, like say New Zealand, and they pronounce it a different way, as I'm seeing it, I'm going to have that habit of saying it the wrong way. So I apologize to you, especially Linda, if I do say it wrong. I'm going to try my best. But tonight's topic is a touching one. It's also like a memorial for the people involved. You might want to bring out some tissues because some parts are kind of like hard to hear. And well, I'll update you as I go. We're going to be talking tonight about the volcano White Island eruption. It starts off, it's going to be a tough one. And then we're going to go, if we have enough time after this, we're going to go into the Tanifa, that's how you say it, Tanifa. And then I want to dabble a little bit on our investigation. So we're going to try, hopefully, the time period here, we can get all that in. So on December 9th, 2019, 47 people walked onto the crater of Fakatane, which is White Island. At 2:11 p.m., the island exploded. In seconds, Paradise turned into one of the deadliest volcanic disasters in modern New Zealand history. Tonight, we uncover what really happened. Now, I'm going to tell you a little about like a prelude, a timeline, and then like a summary. So, 47 people walked on to Fakari Island, or Fakari White Island. Only some of them walked off. This is their story. So see, I'm going to stammer because I'm looking at it and I want to say wa because it's WH, but it's fa. Because in New Zealand, their WHs are RFs. So it kind of really plays with your mind. I should have written them all with an F. So it would have been easier. Okay, so what happened? Fukari is an active stratovolcano located about 30 miles off the coast of Fakatane in the Bay of Plenty. At 2:11 p.m. local time, the volcano suddenly erupted while 47 people were on the island. Most of them were tourists from cruise ships. The eruption was phreatic, which means it was steam driven. It was extremely sudden, and there was almost no immediate warning, which I'm kind of like a little ticked off on that one line right there, because, which as I get farther into the story, you will see there were warning signs. There should not have been anybody been allowed to go on that island that day, because there were all the signs that was needed. But we'll see. Superheated steam, ash, and rock blasted into the air, engulfing visitors who were walking inside the crater. So you have the island itself, then you walk up to where the epicenter is, the actual crater. They walked literally up to the edge of that crater. So that's how close these people were to it when it erupted, which is scary. Casualties. There was 22 people that lost their lives. 25 survived, suffering severe burns, many of them from 70 to 90% of their entire bodies. Victims were from Australia, the United States, New Zealand, China, and Malaysia. Many survivors face years of surgeries and skin grafts. One of those from the United States was from North Carolina, and that couple was on their honeymoon. And their story, they did survive. Their story was horrific, and really, when you watch that documentary, if you decide to watch it, you definitely need a box of Kleenex, because it is that heart-wrenching. Rescue efforts. Tour guides and helicopter pilots performed incredibly brave rescues, flying into a still dangerous eruption zone to retrieve survivors. The New Zealand military later recovered the remaining victims days after the eruption, despite ongoing volcanic risk. So there was like an initial puff that kind of gave them a warning, and then it wasn't that much later, boy, can I talk tonight again, that the bigger one went off, and that I just still have that visual in my head of watching that documentary, and it's just, so my mind's boggled. Legal aftermath. In 2023, investigations found that monitoring agencies had noted increased volcanic unrest prior to the eruption. So why in the hell did they allow them to go to that island? Tour operators were criticized for continuing tours despite those alert levels. WorkSafe New Zealand charged multiple parties, including tour companies and monitoring agencies. Some fines and reparations were issued in 2023 and 2024. So that accident was in 2019. Initially, when they did an investigation, they were not going to hold anybody at fault. But then apparently it must have been that the families and people started having concerns. And then in 2023 and 2024, they finally come out and they made somewhat of an effort. Why it was so deadly. Fukari, one of New England's most active volcanoes, it's been having activity. Matter of fact, if you watch the documentary, there was an eruption in 2016. There was another one in 2018, which was only 1 year prior, and then the one in 2019. That should have been enough red flags right there. So a popular tourist destination. Apparently people visited it regularly. Linda, I think you said you're familiar with the island, and that I don't think you ever went to it, but you're familiar with it. It's been known for unpredictable steam-driven eruptions. Phreatic eruptions are especially dangerous because they can occur with little magma movement, meaning fewer obvious warning signs. And what makes this volcano eruption Hot lava is bad enough, but they're getting steam. If you get a steam burn, even in your own house, and they said if you have clothing on, which of course they didn't go there naked, they had clothing on, when it hit your clothing, it made the steam burn twice as bad. And people were literally, well, we'll get to them. Okay, now this is from the documentary itself. The documentary was called The Volcano Rescue from Fakari. The Fakari White Island eruption. December. Now this is where it's going to have like a breakdown.
Hi, Ronan.
Hi, Ronan. How are you? December 9th, 2019.
Hi, Cactus.
Hi, Cactus. Fakari on White Island off the coast of Fakatane. It's so hard reading those, seeing that W-H-A. I'm so sorry, Linda. And this is in New Zealand, of course. Morning, a beautiful illusion. Tour boats leave the mainland under blue skies. Passengers laugh, they take photos, they post to social media. They are walking inside the crater of one of the most active volcanoes in New Zealand, unaware that beneath their feet, pressure is building. Now, I'm going to stop there for a second because if you watch the documentary, before they get to the rim of the crater, they noticed a stronger sulfur smell, and they were talking about that. He also had, one of the tour guides also had some of it. There was like little streams of water in some of the ridges, and he had them, he went and said, you will taste the minerals, and they would dip their finger in and do a taste, and they said they could clearly taste either sulfur or the minerals in that water, so they knew. Now, it says they got right to the rim of the crater. When they got there, and I don't have it down here, but I'm saying it because it's a very important factor that should have been another big red flag. They're in awe of what they're seeing, this incredible sight. And the tour guide literally said to them, that water there in the crater is normally like a greenish color. When they were there, it was all glazed over with white. He said, now that's not normal. He said that to me. He said, that is not normal because it's normally like a bright greenish color. So right there's another flag. Steam rises gently from the vents. It looks peaceful, almost mystical. So while that was going on, there was a small puff of steamy smoke that came up, and it kind of made some of them nervous, especially the newlywed couple. When she saw that, she started getting really nervous, and she said she almost wanted to tell her husband, let's get out of here, something just that she just didn't feel something was right the whole time. And they stayed, and people were pulling out their cameras, taking pictures and everything else. But underground superheated water is trapped under immense pressure. Let me see here. 2 p.m. So this is 11 minutes before subtle signs. Tour groups move toward the center of the crater. Guides explain the sulfur smell. So the sulfur smell was getting stronger. Some visitors even coughed from the fumes. Red flags all along. Seismic activity had been elevated for weeks, but nothing indicates what is about to happen. No alarm sounds, no evacuation order given. They did nothing. They had more signs of activity increasing there. 2:11 p.m., the explosion. Without warning, the earth erupts. A violent phreatic eruption blasts superheated steam, ash, and rock thousands of feet into the air. The temperature near the vent reached over 300 degrees centigrade, which was 572 degrees Fahrenheit, or 300 degrees Celsius, which is 572 degrees Fahrenheit. That's freaking hot. Within seconds, skin burns instantly, lungs fill with ash, visibility disappears, and the entire island becomes a cloud of gray death. People run, but there's nowhere to hide, no shelter, no cover. The only place that there was right when they first got in. There was a I can't remember what they called it, was there, but it wasn't even a place for them to run and hide cover. Plus, there's a story. Some collapse immediately, others stagger towards the shoreline, burned and blinded. Now, some of these people, including the couple from North Carolina, he said the heat was so intense he never felt anything like that in his life. He said as he was, I hope I don't cry when I say this. He said as he was walking away, his skin was literally peeling off of his bones. And he looked over at his wife, and his wife was a lot worse. And he didn't think she was going to make it. And at one point, he said they just held hands, like she had her hand on his wrist like this. And she told him, if we're going to die, we're going to die together. So minutes after, silence and smoke. From the mainland, a massive ash plume is visible. Boats that had just departed ended up turning around. Helicopter pilots, without waiting for an official clearance, made the choice. They fly back to the ash cloud into the volcano that could erupt again at any moment. Between 3 and 5 p.m., the rescue started. Private pilots and tour operators land in those toxic conditions. They load severely burned victims onto helicopters, skin peeling, clothes melting into their flesh. Survivors later describe hearing screams in the fog, not recognizing their own hands, thinking they were going to die on that island. The injured are flown to hospitals across New Zealand and Australia. Many have burns covering 70 to 90% of their bodies. Nightfall. As darkness falls, 8 bodies still remained on the island. The volcano is still unstable. Rescue teams cannot immediately return. Families wait in agony. Phones ring without answers. December 13th, the recovery mission continues. New Zealand military teams on the island, despite continued eruption risks, they move quickly, carefully, recovering those who never made it off. It is described as one of the most dangerous recovery operations in New Zealand history. The aftermath. 22 people lost their lives. Many survivors endured dozens of surgeries, skin grafts, years of rehabilitation, survivors' guilt. Some rescuers still carry trauma from what they saw that day. I couldn't even imagine. The haunting question. Fakari had shown signs of unrest. Alert levels were elevated. Tours were still operating. Was it a tragic act of nature or a disaster just waiting to happen? Now, the summary, we're going to summarize this whole thing up. But December 9th, 2009, a white plume rises gently above White Island. It looks peaceful, beautiful. Tourists step carefully across the crater floor. They laugh, they take photos, they stand on the edge of something ancient and alive. Beneath them, water is superheating, pressure is building, the earth is straining to breathe. And then, without warning, it does. At 2:11 p.m., the island explodes. A violent blast of steam and ash swallows everything in seconds. The sky disappears. The air turns toxic. Skin burns instantly. There's no time to process, no time to understand. Only heat, only chaos, only survival. Some try to run. Some collapse where they stand. Others stumble towards the shoreline, blinded, calling out for loved ones they can no longer see. From the main line near Fakatani, a dark cloud is rising, and brave helicopter pilots make a choice. They fly back into the ash, into the danger, into a volcano that could erupt again at any moment. What they find is devastation. People burned beyond recognition, clothes fused to skin, voices reduced to whispers, and still they lift them out one by one. And the outro, in the end, 22 people lost their lives that day. Parents, children, newlyweds, friends. Some survivors will carry scars for the rest of their lives, not only on their bodies, but in their memories. A beautiful island, a moment of awe, a sudden eruption that changed everything. Nature does not warn us twice. Sometimes paradise stands on a fault line. Tonight, we remembered those who came home. We honor the bravery of those who risked everything to save strangers, and we all ask the question that still lingers in the ash. When does adventure become a risk? And when does risk become tragedy? Never forget how quickly the ground beneath us can change. And I'm telling you, if you watch, they on the documentary, they will go over everything here, but they get more graphic, which I should have put a warning thing on here that it's a hard subject. I almost didn't want to cover it, but I kind of only did as a memorial to those. There's not enough memorials out for people and for the brave people that help them, and this show is dedicated to the people that help those on the island and to the families who lost loved ones that day. It's a hard topic to cover, but my God, hopefully things like this in the future, people wake up. You had all these red flags. These lives could have been spared. Why were they allowing tours to continue on this island, knowing that it erupted in 2016, again in 2018, and then 2019? And when that tour guide said that the water is normally green, but it was all covered with a white glaze, and that initial small puff went up, they should immediately evacuate and called, hey, we need to get off this island now. Something's just not right. And this was one of probably the hardest subject that I've ever had to cover on here. It really was an incredibly hard subject, and I'm glad I could get through it. And it's been bothering me since the day I watched that documentary. Americans think volcanoes are like the Hawaii volcano. Well, we had Mount St. Helens, and I guess a lot of people didn't take Mount St. Helens serious until she erupted. And when she erupted, it was kind of almost the same scenario. There were signs and stuff, and then volcanoes, they have a mind of their own, and Mother Nature has a mind of her own. She's going to do what she wants to do when she wants to do it, and she don't need to give you any signs. But in this case, there were tons of red flags. Yeah. So there was no excuse for anybody going to the islands.
Those guides should have known before they even took anybody in.
The country
should have checked the water. They should have checked everything to make sure that it was fine for the guests.
The area should have forbidden any tours to go there.
Yep, and then when they found out that it wasn't safe, it should have been blocked off, and they should have went back immediately.
When you hear like the couple from North Carolina, like they've had skin graft after skin graft after skin graft, and the one part that was really touching on there, because that was like their honeymoon. They were newlyweds. And as I said, she put her hand on his like this, and she said that if they go, they're going to go together. In the documentary, she was having a hard time even doing this with her one hand. But ironically, the arm that she had her hand on like this, his whole arm was severely burnt. What she said, the skin was just... But she had her hand here on that spot. That was the only spot where his skin and everything was still perfect. And her hand that was on there. The top part was burnt, but that was the only hand where she was actually able to do this. So her hand that was over his arm and his arm on that spot was pretty much only part that was untouched. And talking to survivors, there was a young kid. He went with his whole family. He went with his father, mother, and I think it was his sister. And they were separated. So he was on one cruise ship and they were on another one. And when this happened, he was from another cruise ship, so he had another tour guide. And when he got rescued, he was one of them that was sitting waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for word. Well, when he got the word, it wasn't what he wanted to hear. He lost every other freaking member of his family on that island that day. And he showed what he looked like and what he went through. That picture will never leave your eyes when you see what he looked like. And what he looks like now, you can still tell how bad he was. But even how bad he looks now, you could never imagine the before. It just, like, it's one of those that it's hard. And like I said, I dedicate this to the family and to the rescuers. But just watching it, if you're not left having those pictures and those thoughts in your head, then I don't think you have a heart or you don't have any compassion in you. It's just that bad. So it's horribly sad, Cactus. Like, I just felt that it needed to be talked about, like I said, in memorial of the families, and to thank the brave people that did get the 27 survivors off the island. But wow. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about is the Taniwha. And you'll find out what that is, also from New Zealand. And this is also something that Linda brought up because she's a New Zealand native. We get through this quick enough. I do want to talk about our investigation that we just had on Saturday for just a little bit. So we will go into the Taniwha, and then hopefully we have enough time to cover a little bit of the investigation. So the Taniwha are powerful beings from Maori mythology in New Zealand. They're often described as supernatural creatures that live in rivers, lakes, or the sea, though some are said to dwell in caves or deep forests. Now, deep in the waters of New Zealand, where rivers run dark and lakes hide their depths, stories spark of something ancient, something watching. And there he is. Guardian to some, monsters to others. Tonight we dive into the legend of the Taniwha, the water-dwelling being said to protect or claim those who cross their domain. There's snacks, food. So dim the light and listen closely, because some waters remember who enters them. Were you able to talk to Adam at all? So
he's going to check for that Saturday.
Okay, so not next Saturday, but Saturday after. Okay, sounds good. Or the Saturday after that, either one. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So, what are Taniwha? Linda, I apologize for saying these things wrong. I'm not a native of New Zealand. Please forgive me. Their appearance varies from story. Some look like giant serpents or dragons. Others resemble shark-like or whale-like creatures. A few are described as reptilian or lizard-like monsters. In some traditions, they can even be a spirit being rather than a physical creature.
He's back.
Okay, Gabriella will be back. Guardian or monster. So in some cultures, some think of it as a guardian and some think it as a monster. Not always evil. Kaitiaki are guardians. Some protect tribes, waters, or sacred places. Dangerous beings, others are known for dragging people into the water, causing floods and drownings. How they behave often depends on how the humans treat that territory. So if you're treating the land in that area pretty good and there happens to be a Tanifa there, then you're probably going to be okay. Cultural meaning. For Maori, Tanifa, oh, Linda, I apologize, are deeply symbolic. They can represent the power and danger of nature. Some tribes consider specific Tanifa as ancestral protectors. Stories were sometimes used to warn people about hazardous waters or areas. Now, here's a creepy lore version. Some legends tell of lone travelers crossing rivers at dusk, hearing a low rumble beneath the water. Ripples from against the current, then a long dark shape glides just below the surface. If the Tanifa was claimed that stretch of water, it may guard you or pull you under without a sound. In Maori mythology, Tanifa are large supernatural beings that live in deep pools in rivers, dark caves, or in the sea, especially in places with dangerous currents or deceptive breakers, which are giant waves. Highly respected kaitiaki, which are the guardians of people and places, or in some traditions as dangerous predatory beings, would kidnap women to have as wives. Linguists refer to them as Proto-Oceanic Tanifa, meaning shark species. So linguists actually think they're like a member of the shark family. In Tongan, Tanifa refers to the large dangerous shark, same as the Samoan Tanifa. The Tokeluan Tanifa is a sea monster that eats people. In most Polynesian languages, they are simply sharks or fish. Some anthropologists refer to them as moho, reptilian deities, which are in Hawaiian lore, as being both as protector and harmful to men, shape-shifting, and so on. At sea, they often appear as a whale or a large shark. Compare the Maori name for a great white shark, Mango Tanifa. In inland waters, they may still be of whale-like dimensions, but they look more like a gecko or a tuatara, having a row of spines along the back. Some behave as a floating log. Some can tunnel through the earth, uprooting trees in the process. Some legends say certain Tanifa created harbors by carving out a channel from the ocean. Wellington's was one of them, carved out by two Tanifa, and they claim that the petrified remains of one of them turned into a hill overlooking the city. Dylan scared the crap out of your cactus. Dylan does that. Yeah, it was Dylan. Bad Dylan. They can be either male or female. The Tanifa is said to arrive in New Zealand by voyaging canoes with her 11 sons and are credited of creating branches of the Hokianga Harbor. Most Tanifa are associated with tribal groups, each one having a Tanifa of its own. Most took on a protective role of their descendants. When they get respect, they usually act well towards their people. They would act as guardians by warning the approach of enemies, communicating via a priest who was a medium, sometimes saving people from drowning. Because they lived in dangerous places or dark and gloomy places, people were careful to give the Tanifa appropriate offerings as if they needed to be in the vicinity or pass by its lair. These offerings were often a green twig accompanied by a fitting incantation. During harvest time, the first kamara, sweet potato, or first taro was often presented to them. I was wondering when you guys was like, Gabriella kept on looking back. I'm there. Don't tell me there's something back there and we can actually see it. Wonder why those lights aren't on back there. We usually have them. They're not flashing. That made it a little bit more creepy in there. As guardians, Tanifa were vigilant to ensure that people respected the restrictions imposed by the tapu. They made sure that any violations of tapu were punished. Tanifa were especially dangerous to other tribes. There are so many stories of battles with Tanifa, both on land and on sea. These conflicts often took place after the settlement of New Zealand. Generally, after a Tanifa had attacked and eaten a person from a tribe it had no connection with. The humans always managed to outwit and defeat the Tanifa. Many were described as being lizard-like, and some stories say that the beasts were cut up and eaten by the slayers. When Hotupuku in Tanifa from Rotorua district was slain, his stomach was cut open to reveal a number of bodies of men, women, and children whole and still undigested, as well as various body parts. The Tanifa swallowed all that the victims carried, including weapons of various kinds like darts, green stone ornaments, shark's teeth, flax clothing, and an assortment of fur and feather cloaks of high quality. So they swallowed you whole. Dylan will have to get talked to. Let's see. Anybody have any questions so far? I only got a couple pages, and we can go into a little bit about that investigation. Well, that's what when Linda brought this up a while ago, I'm there. You know what? I've had some information on it for a couple weeks now, and I finished up my research here after I recovered from the investigation, and I'm there. Okay, this is definitely going to be the night for that. So, many were killers, but the Tanifa Kaiware was eventually tamed by Timur. Timur lived in Haraki and was understood to have a magical mirror with powers to defeat Tanifa. The Manukau people then called him Timur to help kill the Tanifa. And they wrestled, and Timur clubbed the Tanifa over the head. Although he was unable to kill it, his actions tamed the beast. It still lives there, but now lives on crayfish and octopi. Sometimes, according to myths, a person who had dealings with Tanifa during their lifetime might turn into a Tanifa if they died. Or Tanifa, not Tanifa, Tanifa. Sometimes relationships are formed between humans and Tanifa. One story was a female Tanifa who married a human man and gave birth to a Taniwa child.
That's a lot of...
I'm sure you'll have a theory on that, right? We could have played that song at the beginning here. In more recent years, Tanifa have featured prominently in New Zealand news broadcasts due to spirits being referenced in both court cases and in various legal notifications, or negotiations, rather. This caused a change in the way they are viewed. In 2002, a Maori tribe successfully ensured that part of the country's major highway, State Highway 1, be treated in order to protect the abode of their legendary protector. This particular Tanifa was said to have the appearance of a large white eel, and they argued it must not be removed, but rather move on of its own accord, and to remove it would invite trouble. In November 2002, Television New Zealand reported it had negotiated a deal under which concessions have been put in place to ensure that the taniwha were respected. Some journalists like Brian Rudman have criticized such deals in respect of secretive taniwha, which rise up from the swamp and riverbeds every now and then, demanding a tithe from transit in New Zealand. Now, a tithe is a commission. So he said that that's going to cause problems because of they wanted a commission if they were going to allow that to be happening. In 2001, another incident was on a prison site, which was granted approval through the courts. Maori academic Ranganiu Walker said that in the modern age, taniwha was the manifestation of a coping mechanism for some Maori. It did not mean there actually was a creature lurking in the water. It was just their way of indicating that they were troubled by an incident or an event. In 2021, the 28th Minister of Foreign Affairs of New Zealand characterized the China-New Zealand relations as the relationship between a taniwha and a dragon. And then there is like a little campfire story and that goes with it. And the outro is whether taniwha are protectors, warnings from the past, or something far more real. Their story remains woven into the land and waters of New Zealand. And maybe that's a reminder. Some places aren't meant to be disturbed. So respect the legends and sleep carefully tonight. So anybody have any questions on either one of those two? Questions. And I do apologize for all the stammering around those Linda, those words. You guys with your WHs, BNFs, when you're reading them, that messes with the brain cells.
She said your Maori is fairly good.
My Maori is good. Well, thank you. I was trying. I try. It's just, wow. I didn't want to stammer that much, but I think in a way, like I'm still, the volcano thing was hard reading. Those words, the Whakatane, and Whakari Island, when you're saying the fa instead of the wa, that, like I said, that's, they were talking to on that documentary to a Maori tribal member, and he was talking about White Island and I think the volcano and that. But if you get a chance to watch that documentary, watch it. I do suggest you're going to need tissues and it will affect you. So anybody have any questions about anything so far?
Till I get over to the apartment.
Yeah, we're already almost at the hour. So
I don't like eating on camera. I did have supper.
Well, we eat our universal snacks on camera.
Yeah, but that's taste testing. That's not even like going.
Speaking of universal, Thursday, guys. Fuck-tane. It has here. Well, I looked up the definition on. I googled, and it said that I was calling it wakatane, but it says it's fakatane. That's what they're saying. Or fakatane. That's what it's saying. So, but yeah, because it says it is 4 syllables on it, because they said a lot of people, even native New Zealand, say it wrong.
So it says fakatane, but it might be like that.
But they said it's 4 syllables. Hers is 3.
Well, then it might be fa.
They said, yeah,
Fakatene.
fakatene, or not tane, fakatane is how it's supposed to be. Because this is not supposed to be te, it's supposed to be ta. Because they said like car, ka, fakatane, and that one's fakari. I mean fakari. Fuckery. So, but yeah, it just messes with your mind when you have the W. Yeah, I looked because I wanted to keep on trying to pronounce it right because, like I said, the WH plays minds when you're looking at it because you're tempted to keep on saying the WH sound, not realizing, well, New Zealand uses the F instead of WH. So I wanted to make sure that I actually wrote it down in the phonetics that they had and the pronunciation that they actually had because I listened to the audio too. And so I put it in parentheses and put it in the phonetics so I would say it right. And I still managed to mess it up all through there. So
Probably better than I can pronounce it.
So
I would not have been able to
yeah,
do
that
any
was a
of
little bit of
anything.
struggle, a good story, but wow. Now, anybody have any questions? Because we're going to get on to how many on here. I think all of you guys have on here were watching our live on Saturday night at the Masonic Temple. Now, I did ask them, is it the Masonic Temple or is it the Masonic Lodge? And there was an explanation. It's the Masonic Temple because it is the bigger place where all the lodges will gather and they will go to this temple. So the one we were at was the temple. However, thanks to Dylan being friends with some people, we are going to be soon going to a Masonic lodge. So how about that?
I'm a little scared.
How about that? Yeah, after what happened on Saturday.
I'm a little scared.
Well, thank you, Linda. I wanted to show respect to the culture. I did apologize to the Maoris and you know the island and the people there. I tried. So I know I goofed up a lot, but this was all this whole show here involving both of these topics was your baby in honor of you. So I hope I did you well. So
I'm taking a shower.
Okay, so let's get on to everybody here. I think watched the live. Now, did you guys only, because I think they watched both. Huh? They watched Chase's and Charlie's and Eric's, and then they did watch ours too, I think, right? Or what all did you guys watch? Did you watch the guys and the gals, or did you just only watch the guys?
Well, we took over
we did down in the break room and that. Yeah, we continued from that part on, right?
And the ballroom.
Yeah, in the ballroom. I forgot about that. We did take over then.
So yeah, they were on the same line.
Okay, I can't go into a lot of detail, but I will give you a little prelude. A little insight, a little preparation of what to watch out for.
He left. So I don't know what that pop was.
We didn't have those lights on in the back in there either. I didn't turn them on.
Might be good though. Considering you saw it.
When you guys, Abby and myself, if Gabrielle wants to she can. We kind of it was kind of like.
Kiwi says, "Can I ask a question, Diane?"
Oh, absolutely. What question you want to ask? Ask away, my friend. Ask away.
Ask all the questions. All of them.
While she's asking the question, I'm going to go turn that light on that we normally have in there because it should be on.
Don't get spookified.
Spookified.
She's getting spookified. You're going to upset the doggos. heard one of them up.
Yeah. I'm gonna do with having to turn the light on. I'm gonna have to turn the light on here. And okay, what's her question?
Yeah, it just came through. She said, "With the light grid, are lights supposed to turn off?"
You mean the lights on the grid? If something's in it, their outline is silhouette. It won't block out lights like a lot of people think. People think that if a shadow or something walks in, it'll block out the lights. That's not what happens. What will happen is their form will show, almost like when Chase was standing there, and
It will like distort the light.
in the form of whatever the shape is that it's there. No, the flicker, I mean, they can flicker the lights and stuff. Yeah, that's part of, they could do that. But normally if something's standing there, it'll like kind of distort it, and like you'll know something's there. And then the lights on the grid, I know mine went out. We went over the footage. We wasn't going to, but we went over it because of what happened. We wanted to see if we could pick up exactly a time period when things went amok.
Sometimes certain lights seemed off, and I was seeing things in it like rim blobs.
That's what we were noticing too, and it's kind of hard to distinguish what was going on, because some of the lights themselves in the temple were kind of creating like shadows and that. So it was so hard for us to say, is that something? So we kind of had to debunk a lot of that as just the way the lighting and that was. When you guys watch it, when it's out, you can come to your own conclusion, because there's a couple incidences where we think it could have been something more than just the lights, the way the lights flickered in the lodge or anything like that. But we as wanting to be fair and real, we just kind of dismiss it as we're just going to leave it up to the viewing audience, because we know what we may think, but the viewers are the one, they're going to come to their own conclusions anyhow. So when you guys see it, but while we were there, I can't give too much. Abby and I, and if Gabriella wants to join, probably today is Tuesday, Monday. What is today? Tuesday. Yeah, because we're on tonight. Maybe tomorrow afternoon. No. Friday afternoon. Friday afternoon, maybe Abby and I will go on live, and we're going to explain some things involving the videos that are about to be released. Because when you watch it, you're going to say, like, what's going on? There's parts in it where we're laughing a lot, and I'll explain that tonight. And I can tell you what we're going to discuss is watch closely, especially to the video that Abby's going to release, especially at the very end. But watch throughout the video, because something happens to Eric in that and during that investigation. We're still trying to figure it out. I can tell you, without going into a lot of detail, that Eric lost about 3 hours of time. And what I mean by that is whatever happened to Eric from the time we got into one room to the end of that video, when you watch it, and you'll see he does not remember anything. He was not asleep. He was definitely not himself, because we noticed that. And he does not remember anything at all. He doesn't even remember getting and going to the bathroom. He doesn't remember that whole time we were in the break room and we were having a good time. He doesn't remember anything.
No, not during.
Oh, not that break.
Yeah.
That then we took a longer break after that, and that's when we were just. When you're watching the video, especially when we go to the cigar room, Chase and Charlie, which is the guide that was with us down there, they go under a double Estes, and they're interacting back and forth. We at this point, and even Charlie said, he says, I'm going to warn you guys, if I get tired, I start laughing a lot. And they're like, then that fits, because Mom, when she gets tired, she starts laughing a lot. I started getting tired, folks. I started getting tired. When we got up to the cigar room, any little thing that the guys said or anything we said, we just started laughing. We tried to keep it down so it wouldn't interfere with the investigation, but you could hear us in the back. We were laughing but we were still taking the investigation seriously and trying to interact with the guys and find out what was going on. At that point is when Eric lost track. From that point till the very, very end, he has no memory of anything. And like me and Abby, like I said, on Friday afternoon, we will get into more detail on it. We have theories what we think happened. I did talk to another person, and they told us what they think their theory is, which is pretty much what, especially me and Gabriella, pretty sure what happened. And it's just Eric's still like, so I missed out on the majority of the investigation. And you'll notice when you watch, when Eric was with the guys, he was participating. He was up. He was asking questions. He was Eric. After that one point at the cigar room till at the end when you see our video, everything changed.
We went to multiple rooms and he had no idea.
We was from the cigar room. We went to the museum. And we were in the museum probably a good half an hour. We were in the cigar room probably a good half an hour to an hour. We went to the museum room. We were there for a considerable amount of time. We went down to the break room again for probably a good half an hour or 45 minutes. Then we went up and we separated, and we went to the Templar room and the Egyptian room. And that was a course of about 3 hours. And that whole time, Eric has no recollection of anything. He literally lost that whole time investigating. Yep. And he is okay now.
I will say that, like, even just to make sure that everybody was okay after the investigation was over, I staged everybody, including Charlie, and everybody was staged. So
yeah, we all got a good saging. We were very, very, very concerned. Gabriella literally grabbed Eric by the arm and guided him back down to the break room, because we said we need to get to the break room now. Our investigation is done. It's over with.
Because it was so weird, because whatever happened to him, I was doing the Estes method, and then it was like as soon as I came out of the Estes method and sat beside Eric is when he came to.
Like he snapped out of it.
And then something happened to Chase as well, which you'll hear.
But Chase's
it wasn't
was like,
as dramatic as what happened to Eric.
Chase's lasted maybe 5 to 10 minutes tops. Eric, he lost.
Again, Chase was in, like, I wouldn't say the Estes method, but he had earbuds on and he was listening to the spirit box. But as soon as I came up to him, he snapped out of it. So whatever freaking magic powers I have, apparently.
Yeah. It was crazy. I think Eric's biggest thing is he when he came out of whatever he was in, he said he felt like he had taken like a power nap and come out of like a power nap. And then the day after, he says, Mom, this is going to sound strange, but he says, I almost feel like I've been cleansed. And that he says, because he said, I feel like almost like rejuvenated, like I'm cleansed, which is ironic because part of the temple's rituals and that involves cleansing your soul and rebirth. but it was real strange. So he's disappointed because we did get this amazing place, and he was enjoying doing, like when he was with the other guys asking questions, because he participates like that. And he said, "So you mean I lost over 3 hours of investigating?" Because he still thought he was in the cigar room. He never thought he left the cigar room. When he came out of it, we were in the Egyptian room, and he didn't know how he got there. He did not know how he got there, although he literally walked out on his own recognizances and went here and right there, and even went to the bathroom for a considerable long time, all on his own. And no, but we did see some signs, which we will talk about on Friday. And just when you guys watch,
it's like when it happened, we saw the signs, but we kind of ignored them because we knew something was up, but we kind of were like, well, maybe he was just mad.
Yeah, we thought maybe Chase and Charlie said or did something that pissed him off, or maybe when we were getting real giddy, he thought we weren't taking the investigation serious enough.
But like looking back at the footage now, it's like reliving those moments. You're like, wait a minute, he did this, and that's not normal Eric behavior. So like,
just keep in mind when you're watching the clips, keep in mind how you saw him when the guys were doing their live, and how Eric was all enthusiastic and he was asking questions, and he had the camera doing, and he was doing his thing. And then watch him throughout the rest of the video, and especially right at when we said, okay, we need to stop this video right now. We need to get down to the break room. We'll explain why.
Is that the video she's posting? I thought she was going to post the live that we did in the...
She's going to post the live tomorrow, I think. I think that's what she said. And then on Friday, she's going to have that one posted.
Okay.
I think she's posting the live tomorrow. Okay. And then she's going to post that one that we just... Because we wasn't going to watch it. We were going to do, like we said, have raw footage and go on and watch it as you watched it. But because of what happened, we wanted to see if there was something earlier where we could figure out, okay, when exactly did this happen to Eric?
I watched the entire 2-hour long live that the guys did, and then when we took over to see if Eric's behavior changed at all in that video, and he was perfectly fine. He even said bye to Linda when she logged off.
Yeah. Gabriella does have grounding energy. She has a lot of different I'm saying abilities, because she's more sensory type, spiritual, I guess you can call it, overall the rest of us. But we both can pick up things quicker than other people. But after what happened to Eric, and we will tell you what we think after the videos and that are all done, we'll have a live and we will give you our theory. After what happened to Eric, we're kind of wondering just how sensitive Eric may possibly be himself, because like, just watch the live video and pay close attention to Eric. And then when the other video comes out, watch the difference and watch the very, very ending when we say, okay, we're stopping the video now. We're done. The investigation's done. We need to go down to the break room now. We will explain to you what's going on.
When I had my crystal on when I was doing that I had my crystal on, and I always have this bracelet on because it has the...
We're going to have to, like...
obsidian.
I'm trying to think what else we can... We don't want to...
How surprised were you by what happened?
We were shocked.
Yeah, I wouldn't say surprised. We knew, like I said, we knew something was wrong with Eric. We just thought that he was mad.
Yeah.
We thought that something happened during his time with the guys, and he got pissed off for some reason. But when we finally figured out, like, found out what happened, we were like, okay, we're done here. We need to stage everybody.
Listen closely to
Just
the
in
end
case.
of the video when it comes out, not the live video tomorrow because nothing happened then. But when Abby puts the regular video out and we say, okay, we're done, we're stopping the investigation, we need to get down to the break room now. Listen very closely to Eric at that moment. And
You can even hear in our voices how
Eric was shaking. You could hear in his voice, and wait till you hear our voices. Like we were like, okay, something's going on. We need to stop this now. You will hear the panic. I'm going to even say a little bit of fear.
Oh yeah, when we actually went back down to the break room when he was explaining what happened, I was shaking uncontrollably because of all the adrenaline, like the adrenaline rush. I was like, it was cold, but I was not cold, and I was just shaking like uncontrollably. It was like,
she literally said, "Eric, grab my arm. I'm walking you down
yeah,
to
I
the
was not
break
gonna
room."
let him walk
She
down
says,
by
"You're
himself.
not walking down by yourself," because she said something's not right, and he says, "Well, I'm so confused." He says, "Like, how did I get there?" And we said, "We'll explain to you and tell you what happened once we get down to the break room, but we need to get you down to the break room. We need to get you seated, and we are going to talk to everybody about what just happened here." Because it floored. Chase and Charlie were already, like, Charlie was in the Estes method. Chase was in partially affected too at that time. So they were kind of unaware when Eric actually came out of whatever he was in. And they didn't see and hear what we did when Eric says, like,
Yeah, the only thing that they know was when I went up to them and said, "Guys, we need to go.
Yeah,
we need to go right now."
Yeah.
That
And we were shaking like this, like, okay, what just happened here? And like Eric said, we got this wonderful investigation, and he was excited. He was having a good time when they were in the Templar room. I think that's where they were.
Mhm.
They were having a good time. He was asking questions like crazy. Once we got up to that cigar room, he lost all of that time. So he says, "You mean I got to go to this phenomenal place and I just only got what was done at the live?" I lost out on all of that time. But we thought it was real odd that when there's times it was silence, usually Eric would step in and ask a
Which
question.
you will hear us in some of the videos after a little while when there's like, we're not getting any activity. Ask Eric, like,
Don't
"Hey,
you
Eric,
want
are
to?
you going to say anything? Because, you haven't been saying anything this whole time." And all he would do is like shrug or say, can't think
And
of anything
normally,
right now.
when we're on the spirit box or somebody's on the spirit box, if Eric's name comes out, Eric knows that it obviously is identifying him. So then he will step in and ask a couple questions because his name was mentioned. His name was mentioned, especially in the museum area, at least 3 or 4 times. And Eric didn't respond. And we thought that was rather strange. But again, we just thought Eric was still mad or upset about maybe something that happened with the guys that they did, or that he was just mad because we were laughing and didn't think we were taking the investigation seriously. Whatever. We knew Eric was not right, but we just thought something happened and it pissed him off. Nothing more. But as we rewatched that video, and as we go back now in our heads, where they're, wait a minute, he didn't do this like he normally does. He didn't do
during
that.
the lives. We'll be like, well, this is the moment when we realized something was up, and this is what I think happened, or this is when I noticed something, this is when she noticed something. Like, whenever we all noticed something weird about Eric.
There's a couple things too that he said that is not normal for him, and plus we kind of noticed too, and we thought about it after the fact. His eyes seemed darker, and you could tell he was obviously very mad. His eyes seemed darker. His face seemed a little paler and even a little bit longer. When he came out of it, his face was all full of color again. Mm-hmm. His eyes was bright again, and it's just like,
he scares me. Like his when he came out of it, his eyes were teary, and I was starting to tear up too because I was like, Eric, what do you like?
Like,
what?
yeah, we're there like, what?
Like,
When you hear what he says, listen very closely in that very last 10 minutes or so when we call it quits. Listen very closely to what he says, because we're there like, what? And we're there, I don't want to tell you what he said. That Florida, as we all kind of were like, and he was shaking, and we're there, okay, we're done. We're done. Get the guys. We're going down to the break room. This investigation is done. We have to know what happened to Eric.
Yep.
So, I mean, wow, like, it's an intense, just watch the video real close, keep your eye on Eric.
And like I said, I was searching through the videos to see if I could see when like the change in Eric happened, if it happened earlier than we thought, or if it happened at the time that we thought. And I went through pretty much all the footage that I can go through as of now, and I don't think that it happened prior to the cigar room.
No. Even there's some signs in the cigar room after we watched it, like you're saying, oh, look, Eric was holding the camera the whole time. Now, mind you, he's holding the camera when he's in whatever state he's in already, and he's holding the camera, which we will talk about on Friday again when we do our live. Gabriella will get more depth about that. But Cactus is so glad you're all so diligent and aware with each other. I think that's the one good thing about us being a family-oriented team, because we know each other so well. We know each other, how we investigate. We know what demeanor everybody has. And if something changes even the slightest, we're going to pick up on that. And
like I said, also throughout the entire video and all the videos that we're going to post, you will see at least one of us ask Eric, like, if he wants to investigate, like, he hasn't said anything. Is there anything that he wants to contribute to the investigation? And he either doesn't answer, or he says, I can't think of anything right now, or just like shrugs.
Yeah. Or like we'd say, like we'd introduce ourselves, say, hey, my name's Diane, my name's Gabriella, my name's Abby. We'd go around, and of course, like Charlie and Chase was under the double Estes, so they couldn't answer. So we introduced who they were. Eric was holding the camera. He did at that point say, I'm behind the camera here, but he didn't say his name. We said his name. He says, I'm here behind the camera holding it. And we didn't even hear him say that, which is weird, because we said his name.
It was like whatever happened to him in that cigar room didn't want us to hear anything he said, if he did say anything, because
none of us heard him say that.
We were very giddy.
But we were laughing about everything. I think because we were starting to get tired, because at that point it was already after midnight and we were getting tired.
But when we were doing our investigation and this part was serious, when we were like, okay, we're going to introduce ourselves, and Mom was like, I'm Diane. I was like, I'm Gabriella. Abby's like, I'm Abby. She's like, Chase Thunder, that's this method. That's Eric. Or we said Eric, like it was his turn. And apparently he said, I'm behind the camera, but we did not hear that. We looked at each other like,
is he going to say something? So I said, and that's Eric behind the camera. Now, listen also closely to the things in the cigar room that the guys say between each other while they're under the Estes method, and also listen very, very, very closely again at that last video, the last part of the video, right before we call it quits because of what happened. Listen to the conversation between Charlie and Chase and some of the things Gabriella said. When we put a lot of that together, it kind of makes sense what could have possibly happened to Eric, because there's key words in there that kind of correlates to Eric.
Yeah.
So it's just like that. I have to say, that's once in a lifetime experience. That's something we've never experienced before. That was something that we're never going to ever forget. I know Eric won't.
I was like, of course, the one time I finally come back for an investigation after being gone for however many investigations, something happens.
Eric said that his biggest thing is he's still trying to figure out. The last thing he remembered was being in the cigar room with the camera in his hand, and he makes a comment which you'll hear on the video, and then we're next thing you know we're in the Egyptian room, and he's telling us, I'm not telling you what he said, but he's saying something to us, and whether you're kidding, right? And yeah, he was pretty freaked out, like whether you're kidding, like,
what?
Yeah, like we're like, what? Like we're like floored, whether you're kidding, right? And he says, like he literally was freaking out because he thought, he said his feeling was he thought that everybody was going to be laughing at him and making fun of him, saying, "Oh, did you wake up there, Sleeping Beauty?" Because he come out of what he said felt like a power nap, and here he was in a total different room, and 3 hours had passed, and he wasn't asleep because he was responding to some people, and he was walking. He went to the bathroom. He walked down to the break room. He walked to
Yeah,
each.
he was like on autopilot.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
He was doing like normal human things, but not as himself.
And I said, "Do you think you could have possibly been sleepwalking?" He says, "No." He says, which he did answer a couple questions, like as if I asked Gabriella questions, say, "Hey, are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm okay. I just, I'm just getting a little tired." He would answer a couple questions like that, just like, but he, yeah, it was that, I'm telling you, just watch the cigar room from that point on. And the last, especially, I'm going to say 10 to 15 minutes of the video, that's where everything kind of gets real messed up. And that's when he finally comes out of whatever that happened to him. And it's like, listen to what he says, watch our reactions. And Gabby runs over and tells Chase, "We're stopping the video right now. The investigation's over. We need to get to the break room." Like, watch that, especially listen to Eric and our reactions and that, and what Chase and Charlie was talking about. But yeah, it's so, we have coming up Thursday, Universal Yums, Poland. It's going to be me and Gabriella. It's going to be Chase and Abby. So there's going to be 4 of us on that one. We did open up the box. It looks like it's going to be better than what we just had with the Around the World. But some couple items are a little bit.
There's a few that
are like we're not sure, but it looks better than what the Around the World one was. We do have another lodge coming up. Dylan's scheduling that for us. We have a museum coming up next month on April 18th. We are still trying to get the church in. We are going to be having a fire station coming up here. We're just waiting for a date for that one. And we are still trying to wait for word from about that church one. So we do have events here coming up.
The April one I might not be there for. I think that's when I was supposed to go to the hotel.
April 18th? I thought you guys weren't going until like...
It's April something.
Excuse me.
In June, no, July is when the North Carolina trip is. And then June is the...
We'll see. We'll figure it out. But yeah, so we have all that stuff coming up. On Friday afternoon, Abby and I, and if Gabriella wants to join or Eric wants to join, maybe Eric would be good if he wanted to join just so that he can give some of his input. We'll go live on Lurking Spirits to talk about some of this stuff we just discussed here tonight. And then I think Abby said Friday night she's going to have that video released. I'm pretty sure that's what she said. But it probably will be a 2-parter. And we still have a camera. We had a still camera that has video on it that we didn't even look at. So we don't know. And we just put it in a room. One was in a room and one was in a hallway.
Yeah,
by
one
some stair
was
steps.
in the ballroom, and then the other one was just the stairwell.
And we didn't even look at those, so we might just raw footage on here and review those. We don't know if we captured anything. She might want to go through, because if there's nothing at all on it, we don't want you sitting there watching like an hour or whatever. Like, okay, I see a camera focusing on nothing. So we might just skim through it real quick and see if there's, I don't know yet. We're going to, but there will be two. There's footage off of there, so it'll either be two separate there, or she'll combine and make one video that we can have as a second video from the lodge. I mean, from the temple. They do want us to come back. Charlie really liked us. We liked him. It was a good investigation. It was like full of surprises, and we never in a million years, we thought if something would happen, it normally would happen to Gabriella because she's more sensitive, or
But
maybe
it makes sense. It's the Masonic Lodge, so guys.
yeah.
Mostly.
And we think that had a lot to do with it, because the cigar room in particular, women were forbidden to go in there, and there we were sitting in that room, and Eric was sitting on a nice, comfy, relaxed chair, and we think that he was just open, which ironically, watch the video. There's some clues. Charlie is good. He's fairly new yet. He is part of another paranormal team. He's a real sweet guy. He's easy going. He asked if he was going to be with us, but he was going to be kind of in the background, and where he could investigate with us because he did have his own equipment. So people do investigate there. In the ballroom where those plants were, he said that there's been people there that they saw the plant being thrown across the floor. They've seen shadows down there. The ironic thing is, when we first went in there that day, we had a lot of camera problems and battery problems. Like, we thought we wasn't even going to be able to start the investigation or have to use our phones the whole time because we were having camera problems. And then Charlie went to start turning lights off for us. Well, first turn lights on and then turn lights off. As he was going to find where the light switches was, we heard footsteps already immediately above us, and we knew that it wasn't his, because his was very distinct when he was walking to turn the lights on, and you could clearly hear them above us, which was totally different type of footsteps. So, but no, we weren't on camera on that one yet. That was just when we were going through the tour of the building, and we didn't even start investigating yet. So, but just kind of watch those things very, very closely. Put your input down in that. Watch Eric like a hawk on there. Watch, maybe you can pick up something we didn't pick up. Watch in particular the cigar room, what the guys were saying back and forth, and especially like the last 15 minutes or so, right before we said, okay, we have to end this investigation now. So with that being said, we're almost going at an hour and a half. Gabriella wants to eat her food. She wants to go back with her honey. We will catch you on Thursday on Real Talk for our Yum Yums. And then we will update you on Lurking Spirits about some of this stuff we just discussed. So with that being said, we'll catch you again on the other side. And we are going to say good night, everybody. Good night. We love ya. Thanks for tuning in, guys. You guys are awesome as always. Bye-bye.